Welcome to another week of A Friendly Nudge. So today we're making fried shallots, and it's not complicated. It is a little time intensive. It's probably 20, maybe even 30 minutes, and it's something that you have to kind of pay attention to. A lot of the stuff I cook, it's like you can kind of leave it and do other stuff. With this one, you really need to be on top of it because these things go from not being done at all to all of a sudden, hey, you need to pull them right away and drain them so that they don't get burned or get too soggy. So we're going to use a mandolin, and mandolins can be kind of dicey. It's like most people that spend much time with a mandolin have a story about cutting the fingertip off. That's why I don't use the guard. I use one of these cut-proof gloves, and I say cut-proof, it's probably cut-resistant. But what I've got is a little over a pound of shallots, and what you want is the shallots adjusted. You want the mandolin adjusted where it's about the thickness of 2 credit cards. This is the thickness that Kenji Lopez-Alt describes, because he and his wife have this thing about he makes these at home in a big batch, and then it's always kind of a battle is to see who ends up eating the last one. What happens with these is they're great to add as like toppings for dishes. So what you're going to do, I use avocado oil, and I'm pouring a pretty good amount here in the pot, and then I'm actually going to even add a little bit more. But the beauty of this thing is it's like, oh man, I got to pour all this oil, throw it away. After you fry the shallots in it, you save that oil because now it's this avocado oil infused with shallot flavor. So it's great for like dressings and, if you want to add kind of a subtle shallot flavor to a meal that you're preparing. And what I'm using are just some kitchen tweezers, and I'm working on the shallots to get them to where that they're kind of broken up into individual rings. So I added a little bit more oil. And what happens with this is that after a while, you'll see these things start to just barely take on a little bit of color. And at that point, I turn the heat down just a touch, because once they start to go, it happens real fast. And the last thing you want to do is burn them, because now all of a sudden they're bitter. So you just kind of keep stirring them around, and you start to look, and just as you start to see kind of this hint of golden color, it's time to turn the heat off. And what you do is that you pour them through a wire mesh strainer. You're going to capture the oil in the bowl below, and then we're going to spread them out on a sheet tray that has some paper towels on it. And then what you do is, like, you've got multiple layers of paper towels. You pull some of them off and use it to blot the shallots. And then about now is, I think right after this is when I'm going to add just a little bit of salt to it. And then I'm going to put it in a 200-degree oven just to kind of finish getting any moisture off of it. I made the mistake of putting it in an oven that had been at 300 earlier, and I turned it down to 200. But I think the actual temperature in the oven is probably more like 275, which was a little bit too hot. So what I would suggest is make sure your oven is at 200 and not higher. And, all you're going to do is just spread them out real good on the sheet tray, and just, you're going to pull them out and check them. You just want them to be pretty dry. And the first time that I pull them out, they're just a little bit on the soggy side. So I put them back in for about another 3 minutes. So they're only in there like 5 or 6 minutes. But the last thing you want to do is, after all that work, to turn around and burn the shallots. But I think you're going to find that these are like an excellent addition to things that you cook. And then I'll be interested in hearing from you, like, different ways that you use the shallot oil. So I think you're going to love these. Have a wonderful week and play with your food.